Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this free video, let's talk about FedEx and what it has to do with my overall look at the slowdown in commodities, my bearishness in the futures markets, my bearishness in overall indices, and also what I think we're going to continue to see. I mean, this is just probably one of many slowdowns, many economic stories we're going to see. It just happens to be very intensely playing out in a massive sell-off in FedEx right now. FedEx at the close was trading at about $173. Currently it's trading at $157.23. So big move. I mean, we're going to see a significant move to the downside. One of the things that we did in a recent class, by the way, because I don't segregate my stock trading from my futures trading from my currency trading. And one of the things that we did look at and set up is a vertical, playing a vertical in FedEx in this chop, with an emphasis on expecting more movement to the downside. So that's exactly what we are finally getting here in FedEx. But let's talk about what FedEx said and how that plays out in some of the indices. I'll jump on over there in a moment. Weakening global economic conditions, increased costs to expand service offerings, and continued mix to shift lower yielding services. What else are they citing? I mean, obviously, some of this is going to be due to the current tariffs and the uncertainty around the trade tensions. In fact, they cited increasing trade tensions along with the weaker global economic environment. You know, one thing that we all know, and that's the sort of the elephant in the room of FedEx, is in August, FedEx ended their contract to deliver Amazon's ground packages. And in June, it ended the FedEx Express domestic contract. Okay? So, you know, look, Amazon is in this particular environment, and I wish I would have coined this, but there are certain companies that are, as I'm a huge fan of Professor Galloway, Death Stars. They've got their lasers pointed at certain companies, and when they get their lasers pointed at certain companies, you've got the Death Star, like Amazon, and you've got Tatooine, and that is FedEx. And I think we're going to continue to see other situations like this. But what does this mean to kind of my larger futures-based expectation for lower S&P and NASDAQ? One of the things we'll talk a lot about is one of the most significant shifts I've probably ever seen in Fed Fund futures directly in front of a rate decision. And you'll see here, we have essentially flip-flopped. Let me refresh this page though. We've essentially flip-flopped the columns for a hold and a cut. Now they've come a little bit back to even. I mean, take a look right here. Look at the probability settings now versus just a day ago. I mean, this at one point was down to 40-some%. And so the market really is not sure, or at least that's what's being priced into the Fed Fund futures, whether or not we're going to see a cut tomorrow. I do think we see a cut. And I don't believe we're going to see a massive rally, but the way in which these two columns have evened out, we could punch up to slightly higher highs before we sell off. And now, why would I say we're going to see a sell-off? Because this market is basically going to have to come to terms with the fact that if we're this uncertain about September, you know, what does October and what does December hold? And you can see that uncertainty continues to, you know, extend through the rest of the year in terms of rates. So do you think equities bulls are going to love, even if we get the rate cut, a very kind of almost grudgingly given rate cut from the FOMC? And do you think that actually propels the equities markets higher? So this double top that we're seeing across multiple sectors and multiple broader averages, I continue with my overall assessment that we are at a decision level, both technically, from a timing perspective, and from a perspective of reflecting this global economic slowdown. So even from a macro perspective. So timing-wise, day before the FOMC decision. Technically, I do believe this is a double top, although I will tell you in the NAS, this is about as bullish as we've looked in a while, although I do think the double top will win. And then macroeconomically, look, I think FedEx is just, one of many canaries in a coal mine that are coming up. So that's what we've got going on here. I'll see you in the next update.